Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. As it is November, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of look on my shelves at my Kindle and like all of my millions and millions of audiobook apps to see what books I really need to prioritize. I feel like this year I've made some TBRs throughout the year, but I haven't stuck to them very well. And I don't know that I was really intentional with my reading. It feels like I read a lot of just okay books, ones that I probably shouldn't have prioritized over some books that I think I'm gonna really love. So I just need to be more focused on getting some books read that have been on my TBR for ages that I desperately want to read. So that is the goal for the next 2 months. I do have a lot of holiday romances. I'm not going to talk about those in this video. I will do that in December and talk about some of those because there are a ton of those on my radar as well. And I need to read holiday romances in December and some in November, not gonna lie. But these are the non-holiday romance books that I want to prioritize before we get into 2025. To start off with, I figured it would be a good idea to talk about the 2 book club books that I have coming up for the Black Hat Book Coven. The first one is Bad Witch Burning, which is a reread for me, but it's an exciting one. This is Laura's pick, so we will be talking about this book on her channel sometime in November. It's a November book, and I actually really loved this. It is a YA horror, some great commentary in this one, and I continue to think about it, and I think it's one of those books that when I reread it, I'll appreciate it that much more, knowing how everything turns out. And I might have even said that at the time that I first read that one. So it follows a teenage girl who realizes that she has this dark power. She can actually bring people back from the dead, and she ends up doing that to a boy who is killed in her town. And the word is kind of passed around, and she's doing this for families, but maybe the people that she's bringing back from the dead aren't quite human. And she is in a very difficult situation with her family life. Her mom's boyfriends are abusive, and it's really hard to read about. But it's a powerful book. I really liked it, and I want to read more from Jessica Lewis. So maybe if I reread this one, I'll be motivated to look more into her backlist. But yeah, I think it's a good book club pick as well. There's going to be a lot to discuss, so join us for that one for sure. And then the December pick is going to be over on Jackie's channel, and it's another one I'm really excited for. It's called The Briar Book of the Dead by A.G. Slater, who wrote, I always forget the title of this one. It's a mermaid one that I've been interested in for years. What's it called? All the Murmuring Bones. And I've heard good things about this author in general, and this one is obviously witchy. It's actually set in the same universe as All the Murmuring Bones, which is interesting. This is a beautifully told gothic fairy tale of ghosts, witches, deadly secrets, and past sins, and it says it's perfect for fans of Hannah Wynne and Ava Reid, which makes sense to me. So it's about a girl who is actually born into this family, and she's the first non-witch, but I'm sure by the end of it she realizes that she's more powerful than she thinks. That's how these things tend to go. It actually came out this year, so it is a newer release. It doesn't have a ton of ratings. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, but it does have a 4.14 rating on Goodreads, which is excellent. So maybe that is another one you want to join us for. Our discussions are always chaotic, but always so much fun, especially when Jackie is hosting, so that would be a fun time in December, and I just love the cover so much. Then I have 3 books that I started this year, was really enjoying, and haven't finished. That just happens to me sometimes. I think all 3 of these I was reading in the summertime, and that is when my reading really got to a weird place, and I haven't fully recovered from it yet, but we're getting back into the groove of things. Something about the fall and the winter kind of slowing down. You're not outside as much, you're inside reading more. My reading tends to pick up a bit, so these are the 3 that I started in the summer and put down and haven't revisited. The first one is so shameful for me, but this is The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Jelly Clark, who I discovered last year, really loved. This has so many of my buzzwords. I was listening to the audiobook, and I wonder if it's one of those books that I think I should immersion read if I can find like an ebook copy from the library or something of this, because I think I was just getting too distracted and there was a lot to take in the beginning. It is about a woman who is part of this assassin guild, and she has all these rules that she must follow, and you do these contracts and stuff, and it is the Dead Cattail Assassins. So at the beginning there was a lot of setup, and I just think that I probably need to see it with my eyes to fully grasp everything that's happening in that one. And then one that's even more shameful than that is The Maid and the Crocodile, because this is by Jordan Rafueco, who I adore. The Ray Bear series is one of my favorite duologies of all time. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I think if you asked me my favorite YA fantasy series, I would tell you it is that. And I've been waiting years and years for something new from Jordan Rafueco, and it's out and I haven't read it yet, and that kills me, especially because I read the first few chapters and I was loving it, reminded why I loved her writing as much as I do. It was just, that one was more intentional, where I knew that I wasn't in a good reading place and I didn't want to do the book disservice. I wanted to enjoy my experience because I had been waiting so long. And I just think reading it this time of year when I'm really more in the mood for it is a better choice, and I'm glad that I waited, so that is a high priority. And it starts off really interesting. We're following Sade, who grew up an orphan, and she is now aged out of this orphanage, and they kind of just give you some money so that you can get to the capital city or the big city, and then you're on your own. You try and find a job. She wants to be a maid, but she has some magic or connection to gods that she's kind of kept hidden, and she can see these beings. So the part that I got to, she has left the orphanage, and we see how she was raised and the connections that she made there and the hardships that she had there, and now she's arrived at this city, and we're going to see how she survives and thrives and suffers. And I really liked her as a character already, and it shocks me that this only has 960 ratings, but it's a 4.47 average rating on Goodreads, which that does not surprise me at all because Jordan and Fruitgo is amazing. This came out in August. I need to read that one so I can hype that up a bit because I know I'm gonna love it. I love this author. I don't know why that one has kind of flown under the radar this year. And then one that certainly has not flown under the radar is Quicksilver. I have said this in the last few videos, or anytime I talk about fantasy romance, I'm still learning what I like. And I think that I read more fantasy romance than I do, so it's really not fair. I need to just try more. And like, when I love fantasy romance, I love it. And actually I was really into this at first. It was just the sheer size of it that was daunting to me. I was reading it on my Kindle and I thought, well, I could be reading other things. I could read like 3 books in the time it'll take me to read this, which is such a bad mindset to have. So the audiobook is now out for this one as well, so I can immersion read this or like flip back and forth between the two and really give it some time because I just wasn't sitting down to read as much then. And then, to be honest, I've been more into music than audiobooks, but I'm getting more back into audiobook groove a little bit as well. So that is one that I need to get into. This is Do Not Touch a Sword, Do Not Turn the Key, Do Not Open the Gate. I really liked our main character in the beginning. She is in, it's almost like districts, and she is in this ward where they are suffering and you're not supposed to leave, but she leaves. She ends up stealing something from a guard, gets herself into trouble, and there was a really epic scene that was happening when I stopped reading it, so I should get back to it. It was the sheer size of this. How many pages is this? 588, which isn't that many to some, but to me it felt like a lot. And I guess I should just throw up the 2 books that I'm reading at the moment. The first one is Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy, which is a novella. I read 2 chapters last night, was invested in it, figured I'd continue on with it today and maybe finish it today or tomorrow, so that'll be a quick one. Nat Cassidy has quickly become one of my favorite horror authors. He doesn't have a ton of books. He has Mary and the Nestlings, but those are 2 of my favorite horror books of all time. This one's a little different because it's more in the vein of No Exit by Taylor Adams, which, unpopular opinion, I didn't love because it's just the kind of setup where our main character ends up on a road trip going home to visit a dying family member and ends up at a rest stop and things go on from there. And I just don't typically love survival stories like that, but it's Nat Cassidy. So if somebody's gonna make me love it, it's Nat Cassidy. And I did get invested in the first 2 chapters. I think our main character is interesting. I think the setup is interesting. His last 2 books had female main characters, and this is a male POV, which is different for him as well. So I'm trying to separate this from the other 2 books that I know. It's a novella, it's a totally different thing, but I do like his writing, and he does have a book coming out in 2025, so I'm excited about that as well. And then I'm listening to In Want of a Suspect by Terza Price. I got the ALC from Libro FM, but that book comes out this month. And this is a spin-off series from her other series. I think they're called Jane Austen Mystery Series. And the first one was Pride and Premeditation. And in that we met Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. Obviously it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling. And the 2 of them have an interesting relationship. And they feel like the original characters, but doing something unique. And they are both solicitors and they solve a case. And in this one, there is an arson and the victim is hiring Elizabeth to find out who did it. And I love that she decided to take those 2 and do the spin-off series with them because I think they had the most potential for that in all of the books, even though I loved all 3 of the books in that first series. I think if you were going to do a spin-off series, those were the characters to follow. It's just a fun murder mystery series with characters that you know and love. So I like the quirkiness of it. I listen to all of these on audiobook while I do other things around the house. They're very listenable and I just have a good time with them. I I have an e-arc of Echoes of the Imperium by Olivia Nicholas Atwater. That book came out late October, and I just love Olivia Atwater. Actually, she follows me on Instagram, and she likes every story that I put up. If I put up a story on Instagram, I know that Olivia Atwater is gonna like it, and that just brings me so much joy and delight. And The Witch Would Not by her was one of my favorite books of last year. I just think she is incredible, and I love that her and her partner are writing this book together. And when you went to go request this, you could just tell they were sitting by the computer on NetGalley waiting to approve, because myself and my friends all got approved rather quickly. So I would love to prioritize that one because I already love her and I have the e-arc. And this has ghosts, which I love what she does with ghosts. So there's ghosts, goblins, and dreadful fairies in a swashbuckling steampunk adventure that delivers, according to Caitlin Rosakis, who wrote Dreadful and is a book that I love this year. A fallen empire, a goblin airship captain, one big blasphemous problem. And so yeah, anything new from her I'm going to want to read. I actually just got the Kickstarter copy of The Witch Would Not, and it's beautiful. I'll show that in a future video when I eventually do a haul, because I have a few books to show for that as well. But really, really excited about that. Okay, and then I guess I should probably prioritize some of the physical books that I own. And I've been saying this for like a year now, that in November I'm gonna marathon the Burning Kingdom series, because I've been waiting for that third book to come out for ages. It comes out on Tuesday. I haven't started this marathon yet, so I won't be ready to go on Tuesday, but I'm really hoping that between November and December I can get this series read. So the first one will be a reread for me. This is The Jasmine Throne. I understand why this book isn't for everybody, but it was very, 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 very much for me. And it's been a while since I read this. I think I read this the year that it came out, and I still think about it a lot. It is so good. And I just have fallen in love with Tasha Suri and everything that she does. And then as soon as The Oleander Sword came out, I bought it, was gonna read it, didn't. And then the third book, The Lotus Empire, kept getting delayed, and I figured I'll just wait. I'll marathon them all. So I have The Lotus Empire pre-ordered. They're gonna look gorgeous together, and I can't wait to marathon this series, even though the size of them is definitely intimidating. But I remember kind of breezing through this one given the size of it. This one's on the shorter side. I'm not sure how long The Lotus Empire is gonna be, but I just need to immerse myself in this world and embrace the fact that it's okay to marathon a series. I think it can be hard on BookTube to do that, because you feel like you're not talking about new things all the time, but you all don't care. I know I don't care. I love to see booktubers marathon. I just think you get in your own head sometimes, so definitely a priority. Another one I can't believe I haven't read yet is another sequel, and it's The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence. The first book in this series, The Book That Wouldn't Burn, was one of my favorite books of last year. This one is significantly shorter than book one. I think about that first book constantly. I thought it was brilliant. Again, another one I understand why it wouldn't be for everybody, but it was very much for me. If you like labyrinths, if you like libraries, you have to pick that one up. I cannot wait to see how the relationship between the two characters in the first book develops in this one. And I've seen some talk from him on Twitter already of the third book. Was there a cover reveal for that already? That's very exciting, because he's not making us wait for these, that is for sure. So I feel good about reading this one and still remembering enough about what happens by the time the third book comes out, because I still remember book one very, very well, and it's just calling to me right now. The final one is one that I've had on my shelves for years and years. A lot of people say this is their favorite book of all time. I'm thinking around the period between Christmas and New Year's, I want to dive into this one, even though I know I'll probably be gifted new books and be tempted by them. But this is the thing that I think I'm going to dive into, and that is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and a lot of people absolutely adore this book. I swear this is so many people's favorite book of all time. All I know about this one is that somebody finds a book that they fall in love with, and they go on the hunt to find some other works by the author, but they discover that somebody's destroying every copy of this beloved book of theirs, and it follows them on some kind of wild goose chase or into some kind of mystery. I'm not really sure. People are very vague about this book, and I feel like that is probably for a reason, but I feel like it's so many people's favorite, it has the potential to become a favorite for me as well. So that just feels like a good one to prioritize for that time between Christmas and New Year's, where you really are just sitting around and you can just sit there, eat leftovers, read this. I can just picture myself doing that. The Christmas tree is still on, It'll be wonderful. So those are all the books plus holiday romances you'll see in the future that I want to get to before 2025 begins and we start planning for that. I've fallen off my spreadsheet. I really should update my spreadsheet and all that stuff. I just cannot believe it's November and we're already at this point where I'm thinking about 2025. And it's exciting though. I do love that. I do love a fresh start, even though I quickly fall off that spreadsheet and other goals, as you can see by this, and that I was not very focused on my reading goals. Let me know what books you want to prioritize. I'd be curious to know how your goals are going. Now that we're coming around to the end of the year, have you been thinking about the goals that you set out at the beginning of the year? Have you been sticking to them? I would love to talk about it and hear about it from you. So thanks again for your support. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye for now.